Hello everyone, and welcome to this educational presentation of this tool can kick your trading into overdrive. Now what I'm going to be talking to you about today is finding the trend, most specifically the short-term trend, and how it can really help take your trading to the next level. But first of all, I'd like to show you how most traders trade and the problems they get into. For example, if we look at this chart here, this older chart, we see that there's not much happening, but what a lot of traders like to use in terms of identifying the short-term trend is some type of oscillator, some type of short-term timing tool. And as we see here, we have just a standard slow stochastic indicator plotted. And what most traders will do is they say once we are in the overbought area, that's when prices are overbought and they should be coming down lower. So you'll sell, and obviously prices went down for the short term. Once we get into the oversold area, well, you want to cover your short and buy because the trend will go back up. So this looks pretty good, right? It's working pretty well on the short-term trend. I mean, you can use this for intraday trading, for monthly bars, weekly bars. It really doesn't matter. Only trouble is that it only works so often because as we see here, we get right back into the so-called overbought area. You decide to sell, and then this time it continues to go straight up and up. So what we're looking at is some type of tool that can work some of the time, but overall there's really a very small level of consistency to it. This is why most traders fail. What I'm going to be sharing with you today is a tool that really has a high level of consistency, and I'll also be sharing with you a technique that you can trade with this particular tool. So this promises to be a great presentation. Thanks for joining us once again. My name is Steven Primo. I'm the president and founder of Specialist Trading. And about 9 years ago, I teamed up with proprietary strategies with a goal of simply educating traders around the world. I've been trading for 41 years now. I started my education on the floor of the Pacific Stock Exchange. That's where I was first educated myself. I was on the floor for a total of 16 years. 9 of those years I was a specialist. That's where we get the name Specialist Trading. I traded through the crash of 1987 and the bull market that followed. As a specialist, you simply made markets in roughly about 50 or 60 stocks. So I did that during those time periods. So I've traded just about every system, every method you can think of, every strategy, and I've traded in just about every market environment you can think of. So in my 41 years, I know what works in terms of consistency, and I know what doesn't work. So you can really shorten your learning curve by attending our presentations and most specifically becoming members of our courses because we really show you what can elevate your trading. So that's our goal. I teamed up with proprietary strategies where all we do is educate our students around the world in over 115 countries and in virtually every state in the United States, all the things that have shown high levels of consistency. We're first and foremost an educational company. We're simply trying to educate you. And as you'll see today, that's our main goal and that's our main purpose. Now, before I share with you a lot of slides, because I have a lot of slides today sharing with you this educational technique, we ask that you please take a moment to view our required disclaimer. We're required by law to show you this, so please take a moment to view it. I am going to show you a lot of performance results by applying this technique, but please remember that we can in no way guarantee that any of the results I'm about to share with you will be repeated in the future. And also please remember that all examples I'm about to share with you are strictly for educational purposes only, okay? So as you're taking a brief moment to view our disclaimer, I would also like to invite each and every one of you to follow us on Twitter if you haven't done so already. I post different information on a daily basis, anywhere from signals our strategies have generated to little bits of financial wisdom I've accumulated along the way. So lots of great free information. Feel free to follow us on Twitter. There's our handle. You may want to copy that down. Now, as I stated in the opening statement of the presentation, we are unlike a lot of other webinars in that our only goal is to educate you. We're not here to force feed you signals. We're not here to tell you what the perfect market is or the perfect time frame. Our goal is simply to teach you how to trade with the specialist edge. This is the same edge that was taught to me some 41 years ago, and that has been able to sustain me to be able to trade for the next 4 decades, and hopefully it will be able to do that for you as well. Now, before we begin, since this is going to be a classroom, I just want to bring to your attention, I know you like to have questions, but if we stop at every slide to ask a question, we'll be here for a good 2 or 3 hours because I have a lot of slides to share with you. So please, if you do have a question, please wait till the end of class. I promise I won't take a lot of time here, but please wait till the end, and I promise I'll get to each and every one of your questions. The only question I will answer, and that is this being recorded? Yes, it is. We record all of our webinar. So if you have to leave early or are having technical difficulties, we will send you a link to this recording, okay? All right, with that stated, let's begin. So how does one find the short-term trend? I show you that one example of how a lot of traders like to trade with, and it'll work, as I stated, every once in a while. You'll have some really nice setups. But we want consistency. We just don't want a couple of good setups and then one or two that are just terrible and give you everything back. So how does one find the true short-term trend? Well, my answer is a little bit different from what you've probably heard, because in order to trade in sync with the current trend, most specifically the short term, you need a tool that translates what the market wants to do. See, we need a translator, because the market is always telling you, just about 99.9% of the time, what it wants to do in advance. The only trouble is we have been trained as traders always to listen to something else other than the market. We're always trained to listen to some indicator, some guy in a chat room, someone on TV, or some news event, or even the earnings to tell us what's going to happen. But we never focus on what the market is telling us. And the reason is because most traders don't know how to listen to the market. We don't have a translator. Well, we have a great tool that translates the market, and that is the Attendee. You've heard me speak about this before. I learned this some 41 years ago on the floor of the exchange. And let me share with you, if you aren't familiar with what the Attendee is, let me share with you what exactly it is and what it does. It's a proprietary algorithm. We keep the actual formula in-house, but that's okay, because the secret of the Attendee is not knowing what the formula is. The secret of the Attendee is in knowing how to apply it. We could share our formula with everyone that has attended our webinars and everyone in the courses, and I can almost guarantee you that they would still lose money if they didn't know how to properly apply the Attendee. So it's a color bar tool. We devised it with the help of some programmers to make it a color bar tool, make it a lot easier to discern. And what it does is, when you see a series of green bars, it means you're in a short-term uptrend. A series of red bars, you're in a short-term downtrend. Now, the beauty of it is you can use it a number of different ways. One of the best ways is to confirm your signal. So whatever method you're using, I don't care if it's one of mine, one of yours, one of someone else's, it doesn't matter. If you confirm that signal with the Attendee, in other words, if your strategy gives you a buy signal, then the Attendee must color that bar green. If your strategy gives you a sell signal, the Attendee must color that bar red. You'll be that much more ahead of the game. But the most important aspect of using and applying the Attendee is as an early trend detector. All right, what do we mean by that? Well, most people know that you should be applying the trend in order to have a higher level of consistency with your trading. The only trouble is we're usually too late in finding out what the trend is. Just when we think it's going up, it goes the opposite direction, right? Well, once you apply the Attendee, remember, a series of green bars means you're in an uptrend. A series of red bars means you're in a downtrend. And look how well the Attendee had an early detection of what the trend was going to be. But as you see here, the beauty of the Attendee is that it also tells you the direction you should be trading. And once you know that, you can apply any strategy, any method, any system, and most especially any technique to that direction, and you'll have a higher level of consistency. So what is the technique we're talking about? Well, I'm going to give you the full rules to this, but before, let me just explain what the difference is between a technique and a strategy, because I know a lot of you will say, oh, I'm going to start trading this as soon as this presentation concludes. A technique is different in that a strategy comes with a full set of rules: where to enter, where to exit, where to place your stop, where to track the trade if it continues to go in your right direction, money management. Those are all important pieces of the puzzle that must come with a strategy or a system. A technique is different in that it only identifies a high probability setup. How you decide to enter, how you decide to exit, how you decide to place your stop and protect yourself is entirely up to you. They are not a part of the technique. So you see how it's entirely different. The technique is just identifying a high probability area. How you decide to trade it is entirely up to you. But let me show you how simple it is to identify these techniques using the Attendee and what I'm about to explain to you right now. All right, here's the setup. All right. Obviously, we want to apply the Attendee, and we want to look for a 3-bar pivot high or low. I know many of you may know what that is, but for those of you who aren't familiar, this is a little refresher course of what a 3-bar pivot high or low is. If we're looking to buy, this is what we want to find. All right, this is a 3-bar pivot high. It's obviously 3 bars, and it makes no difference what time frame. These could be 3 bars of a 5-minute chart. It could be 3 bars of a monthly chart. And it makes no difference what market. It could be the S&P. It can be Facebook. It does not matter. It could be Bitcoin. So what you're interested in is seeing that bar number 1 makes a high, all right? And this could be the high of the wick, but a high means not where you close. It just means the extreme high of the range of that bar. Bar number 2 makes a higher high, and then bar number 3 makes a lower high. So you have this kind of a arrowhead approach right here. Now what you want to do is apply the pet D and make sure that all 3 of these bars are green, okay? That's what you're looking for because it's telling you that the short-term trend is up. So the setup is you want to enter or look to enter once price trades 1 tick above bar number 2, the highest of the 3 bars. Now also another caveat here is that while you're waiting for price to trade above here on the next series of bars, they must remain green, colored green by the pet D. In other words, if the next bar here is colored red and we haven't traded above bar number 2 yet, well then this setup is negated because that means the trend has changed. Remember, we want all the bars to remain green, and I'll show you that in a few seconds. Let's say you want to go short. Well, this is a 3-bar pivot low. It's the exact same formation, just turned upside down. Bar number 1 has a low that's established. Remember, low, we mean the low of the wick or the low of the range. It's not, doesn't have anything to do with the open or close. It's just the extreme low. Bar number 2 makes a lower low, as you can see here. And bar number 3 makes a higher low. So now you have this kind of a V approach if you connect the dots. Since this is a sell setup formation, we want all 3 bars to be colored red by the pet D. We're not going to sell if the bars are green, right? Because that's telling us the trend is up. We're never going to trade against the short-term trend. We want to trade in sync with the trend. So if the 3 bars are red, well then we're going to sell 1 tick below bar number 2, all right? Now remember, the only caveat is that while you're waiting for it to trade 1 tick below here, the preceding bars need to be colored red as well. If the next bar is colored green, all bets are off because that means the trend has most likely changed. Now, the first thing we have to know when we're applying this technique, or any technique, is to stop relying on tools that do not show nor generate any consistency in your trading. What are those? Well, there's volume, there's support and resistance, there's overbought, oversold indicators. We just want to totally get rid of them and clean the slate. Okay, we just want everything to be clean like this, and then we apply the pet D. And we can do that really easily by using our new platform. This is the PTS Primo charting platform. Everything is pre-formatted. So there's nothing you need to search for in your indicator box or whatever. You simply click on pet D and the colors automatically change once you apply it. Okay? Now all you have to do is look for those setups, those 3-bar pivot highs or lows. It's that simple. You see, trading is really simple. We just overcomplicate it by adding too many indicators, too many rules, too many people we're listening to. Keep trading simple and you'll get onto that road of consistency. All right, so as we see in the beginning of this chart, well, we had the 3-bar pivot high right here, all right? Circled, we have 3 bars, we have a high, followed by a higher high and a lower high. So this is a buy setup. This means we're going to buy if we trade 1 tick above. So while we're waiting for that, we see the next couple of bars were green, but look what happened on the 3rd bar, it's red. So what does that mean? It's telling us that this setup is negated. We are no longer looking to buy there because we need all of the bars to be green prior to entry. So there's nothing to do here. We wait. We see a couple of red bars, nothing to go short there because we need 3 bars to sell. And then all of a sudden, the market decides it wants to go back up again. So the pet D is translating that we want to go higher. You see, if we didn't have the pet D, this would look as if nothing is happening at all. But once we apply it, we see that we have that 3-bar setup right here again. Bar number 1 makes a high, bar number 2 makes a higher high, and bar number 3 makes a lower high. So here's a valid setup to go long if we trade above. Now, how you decide to enter, where you want to enter, if you want to buy calls, if you want to actually buy the stock, that's entirely up to you. Remember, this is just a technique. But the bar after this must be green, and we must remain green until it trades above. Well, lucky for us, the very next bar did trade above. So you could have entered here. And that would have been a nice trade in one day because the stock went up higher. But look what happened over the next 3 or 4 weeks here. 77 points to the upside. Now, someone who likes to follow news or what's going on in a chat room and the institutions could have said, well, yeah, that's because the institutions put out a buy program, or that's because there was good news about the earnings coming up. There's always going to be a reason. The funny thing is that we had no idea of those reasons or that justification The only thing we listened to was the market, because the market told us it wanted to go higher. You see, you don't need to overcomplicate your trading. You just need to listen to what the market wants to do, find out, and then jump on board. That's how simple trading can be. And if you miss that, guess what? There's a lot more setups as the trend continues. All right, let's look at another example here, AMG. All right, now someone would say, well, wait a minute. I'm only looking at 5 bars here. There is no possible way I can make a justification as for what this is going to do. I have no idea. Well, this is the beauty of the PET-D. Just with the simple technique I share with you, and by applying the PET-D, we can have an idea of what the market wants to do. Not what the earnings are going to be, not where support and resistance is, not what the volume is. We don't care about those things. We only want to listen to the market. So we apply the PET-D by clicking on the PET-D tab in the upper green strategy tab of our platform, and automatically the colors change to red now, all right? So the market is telling us for the short term, before anything changes, that it wants to go lower. So already we have an idea of what the market wants to do. Not what some guy in a chat room thinks is going to happen, but what the market wants to do. And guess what? Here's that 3-bar pattern. We have a low, followed by a lower low, followed by a higher low, creating this kind of a V connection here. So that means we can go short, 1 tick below here, provided the next bars remain red. Now, if we get our next bar is green, this setup is negated. So let's see what happened. Well, the very next bar traded down there. Now remember, it doesn't have to close there. It just needs to trade 1 or 2 ticks below in order for this setup to be activated. How you decide to enter is up to you. But it would have been a good idea to go short, because look what happened to AMG. Once again, there's always going to be a justification. There's always going to be, oh, well, Steve, that economic news that came out was bad for the market, so everything went down. Or, oh, yeah, Steve, the industry is really bad, so sure, the whole industry is in that group is really going lower, so that's why they went down. Or they broke major support, that's why the stock went down. The funny thing is that we don't follow, it's not required to follow any of those things at specialist trading and pro trader strategies. The only thing we follow is the market, and by just looking at 5 bars, we had a clear-cut idea of what the market wanted to do. Why? Because it translated to us by coloring the bars red that it wanted to go lower. It's that simple. Okay, we just applied some structure in the form of this 3-bar pivot low, and that got us in. All right, so let's look at some more technique examples so you can really grasp this concept and see how easily it is to trade in sync with the short-term trend, and see how this tool, the PET-D, can really, put your trading in overdrive. Okay. All right, DVN, as you can see here, looks like it's going up, but let's apply the PET-D, and yes, it is. We have that 3-bar pivot high right here, so we're going to be buying 1 tick above. Now all the bars continue to be green, but we haven't traded there yet, and we ultimately traded 1 tick above, so you could have entered anywhere once it traded above there, and 9 points going into the next month, okay? And if you missed that, a lot more setups along the way. These are all 3-bar pivot highs that you could have entered above. How about Facebook? All right, this is an older chart going back to April. As we see here, when we apply the PET-D, well, all the 3 bars were originally green, but we didn't have a 3-bar pivot high yet, and then we had 2 red bars, not enough to go short, and then they went back up to green. Okay, once they're green, we see here that we would have gone long once we traded the very beginning of May right above that 3-bar pivot high. 1, 2, 3. So we're long, and 11 points in the next week or so. See how simple it is. It's just, there's nothing you really have to overthink it. It's very easy to apply. TWLO, looking at this, someone would say, well, Steve, there's no clear-cut direction. We're just basically in a range. Well, actually, there was a direction. It was going lower. So now once the bars are red, we look for that sell setup. Now here was a 3-bar pivot low right here. This means we're going to sell, but we have to trade below the low of bar number 2. Well, the remaining 2 bars, the next 2 bars were red, but they never traded below, and then they switched color. So that means the sell setup is negated, and we switch gears. Now we look to go long and to buy, and what do we have here? We have 1, 2, 3. So that's your buy setup. The bars continue to be green, and then ultimately we traded above the high of bar number 2. So this is telling us that we can go long, that we're entering, or we're waiting to go long, or we're entering, or we're placing a limit. But either way, you should be looking at this as a buying environment, because the stock went up 16 points in the next month. Did we know it was going to go up that high? No, because the pet D does not predict what the market wants to do. It doesn't predict that it'll go this high or this low. All it does is tell you at the moment what the market wants to do. And the market can be fickle. It can change from bar to bar. But usually when you have these nice trends and a nice move underway, the pet D will really exemplify that in advance. And as I stated, if you miss that first setup, don't worry. There's lots of opportunities to get back in. All right, let's look at PSX. Once again, we're kind of going sideways in a range, just a little bit higher. We apply the pet D, and we see here how the market is fickle right here. It wants to go down, it wants to go up, it wants to go down. But at this point, we have consistent green bars. And at this point, we have a high, a higher high, and a lower high. So that's the pivot we created. And you would have entered right here. Now, as you see, you could have entered anywhere around here. It does not mean you have to close above that level. Now, if you want to apply that, if that's one of your requirements, that's fine. But this technique does not require that. So you would have been entering somewhere around here, and it would have closed lower. But that's okay because the stock went up 24 points. See how simple this is? There's absolutely nothing we're looking at externally. We're not looking at any tons of indicators. We're not looking at any news events. We're not looking at listening to anyone in the chat room. We didn't buy some $10,000 course that finds out what the institutions want to do. There's no consistency in those things. There's absolutely no reason to waste your time or your money. Now, you can if you want to. It's not my job to tell you how to trade. My job is to teach you simple, high probability techniques that have shown high levels of consistency. So that's what we're trying to do here. Let's look at CHK. As we can see here, we have red bars, but all of a sudden everything changes to green. And we have that 3-bar pattern, 1, 2, 3. So as long as the bars remain green and then we trade above here, we can go long. Now this is a very inexpensive stock. Just to show you how well this can work on a $200 stock, and it can also work on a $2 stock. So it all depends on if you wanted to have a lot of shares or if you're looking at investing. But either way, you could use the exact same technique. Nothing changes because we're looking at a $2 stock here. And look how the stock took off. Now, it's not a lot of points. It only went up a couple of points, but that's 50%. The stock increased its value by 50% in just a couple of weeks. How would you like to buy a stock? How would you like to buy Facebook and increase its value by 50% in just a couple of weeks? So it's all percentage-wise. It's all remarkable. It's the same exact thing. Let's look at Netflix, okay? Now, this is a weekly chart. Some people say, well, Steve, I don't day trade or I don't look at daily bars. I like to invest more. All right, let's look at a weekly chart. Someone said, well, a weekly chart of Netflix going all the way back to October 2016. I mean, I'm only looking at about 7 or 8 bars here. How can I have a clear-cut idea of using this technique? Well, that's all you need. If we apply the PET D, we see that well in advance, the majority of bars were green. We only had 1 red bar. And then we have this technique here again. 1, 2, 3. You could have gotten long right here in October of 2016, 97 points coming into the end of last year, okay? And as we always state, if there's a strong enough trend, the market always gives you more chances to get in. Let's look at a weekly chart of the Dow Jones Index. Now, this is a way you could apply this. A lot of our traders like to use this as a directional tool. In other words, they don't actually use it to buy individual stocks or individual currency pairs or individual futures. What they do is look at it as a directional tool. They apply it to an index, and if you get a buy or sell signal using this technique, well, that most likely will tell you that the market's going to go higher. So as we look at this chart, a weekly chart of the Dow, going back to the beginning of last year of 2017, we see here that all the bars are green, so the market was telling us it wanted to go higher. And we create this top right here. So this is our entry point. You could have entered in February of 2017, and that was 6,500 points in 1 year, okay? Coming into February, March of this year. So you could have used this all along the way, telling you that a nice rally was in place. Now, so many people have said, boy, I never realized this market was going to go up this high. Well, look at the PET D. It's been green the entire time. All right, so we've shown you buy setups. Let's look at some downtrend markets, okay? Because the same concept can work to the downside. So if you like to buy puts, or if you even like to short the stock, or if you like to sell currency pairs or futures, you can still apply this. It makes no difference, all right? CELG, we're only looking at, what, 6, 7 bars here? But if we apply the PET D, it's telling us right here that we want to go lower. Now we're looking for that 3-bar pattern, and guess what? It's right here. 1, 2, 3. So we can go short provided the next bars are still colored red, and then we trade 1 tick below. And we did on the very next bar. So you could have sold CELG right there and 10 points in the next couple of weeks. Okay? And all the bars remained red. How about WDC? Well, price looked pretty good, like it was going well, and then it started to fall out of bed. Let's apply the PET D. As we see here, we had all the bars originally green, and we had a nice 3-bar pivot to go long. Someone would say, well, Steve, I would have lost money here, right? No, you wouldn't have, because remember, the rules state that it must trade above the high of bar number 2. Here's bar number 1, bar number 2, bar number 3. So bar number 2, as long as the bars stayed green and we traded above, yes, you would have gotten in. But guess what? Now we changed to red. So you never lost anything in that setup, that particular setup, because we never traded above. And now that we have 3 red bars, let's see if we can go short. Well, yes, we have 1, 2, 3. That's a 3-bar pivot low. So we can go short provided the next bars remain red and we trade below this level. Well, the next bar did. So now you're in short 16 points in the next month. See how simple this is when you just learn how to listen to the market? We've never been trained to listen to the market. I know I wasn't. 41 years ago, I was listening to the same things that are taught today. You have to look at the news. You have to look at the earnings. You have to look at the volume. You must see what the institutions are doing. You must see what's going on economically around the world. All right? Those things I was taught 4 decades ago, and they couldn't make me any money in terms of consistency. So if they didn't work then, they're not about to start working now in terms of consistency. I was lucky enough to have some mentors that taught me these techniques, and that's what's been able to sustain me for 40 years. So that's what we're trying to do at Pro Trader Strategies and Specialist Trading. Through our platform and through our techniques, we're trying to instill these, these techniques in you so that you can be trading not just for a couple of years, but 10, 20, 30, 40 years down the road. Let's look at GS, okay? We're only looking at 6 bars here. How can we get a clear-cut idea? Well, we apply the PET D. We see here that we had that 3-bar pivot high, but we never went above it on the green side, so we never went long. And now we have a 3-bar pivot low. 1, 2, 3. The next bar just barely traded there, so we're short 25 points in 2 weeks. Okay, let's start looking at some longer-term time frames, INCY. Here we have green bars that suddenly turn to red. Here we have the short-term pivot low, 3-bar pivot low. Now, we haven't traded there yet, but the bars remain red, so that's a good sign. If the next bar turns green or one of the bars turns green before we enter, this setup is negated. But what can we do here? This is a little bit more advanced technique. If I backtrack and see, this was the original 3-bar pivot low. A lot of students, more advanced, have the option now to go to the next 3-bar pivot low, because as you see here, we have a low, followed by a lower low, and a higher low. So that's a 3-bar pivot low as well. So a lot of students like to move their entry point from this point up to this. Is this wrong or is this better? No, it's up to you. Remember, this is a technique. You're in charge of your trading. We're providing you the information. Some traders like to use this. Other traders still like to say, you know what, I'm going to still be more conservative and wait for it to go below here. That's okay. I'm willing not to get in at the best point because I'm willing to be confirmed that we're breaking below this low. So it makes no difference, because either way, if you'd use that entry or this entry point, you would have gotten short and the stock dropped 50 points in the next 6 months, okay? So you see, it's up to you how you want to enter. Remember, we're giving you the information, we're teaching you this, it's up to you how you decide. And as we always say, if the trend is strong enough, it will always give you more and more chances to get in. Okay, so let's recap. What did we teach you today? We shared with you this technique using a 3-bar pivot high and low. And remember, the one common mistake a lot of students make is that they think a high or low of the range is based on the opening or closing. That couldn't be any further from the truth. I have no idea how this myth got started. A high is the extreme high. It's the high of the range of the day or of the particular bar you're looking at. So if you're looking at candlesticks, it's the high of the wick or the low of the wick. That's what the high is or the low is. So you look for either a 3-bar pivot high or a 3-bar pivot low. Then you apply the PET D to tell you what direction you should be looking to either buy or sell. Remember, if it's a 3-bar pivot high if bar 2 is higher than bar 1 and 3, if bar 2 number 2's ranges, well then all those 3 bars must be colored green. If it's a 3-bar pivot low and bar number 2's extreme low is lower than bar number 1 or 3, well then all those 3 bars must be colored red. Now, extremely points to remember. We covered this before, but very important points to remember. This is not a complete strategy. Remember, a complete strategy is like looking at a wheel with all the spokes in the wheel. Okay, if you're looking at a bicycle and you see all the different spokes coming out of the hub, that's what a strategy is. Okay, you have the spoke that represents your entry point. You have another spoke that represents your stop placement. You have another spoke that represents your exit. You have another spoke that represents your money management, and so on and so on. You need all these things for the wheel to be valid, okay, to be a complete wheel. A strategy is different from a technique, is that it doesn't come with advanced entry signals, okay? It doesn't come with stop placement. It doesn't come with advanced exit signals or money management. It just comes with identifying a high probability area for entry. Now it's up to you to apply all those different spokes, okay? So that's the difference. How you want to enter, how you want to place your stop, how you want to exit is entirely up to you. Now, before you go into question and answer, I want to ask you a question and I want you to answer honestly. We are already into 7 months, almost 8 months of the year of 2018. Do you think this technique can or could have helped your trading this past year? How about for the remainder of the year? All right. See how simple this technique is, and I showed you examples. Do you think it could have helped you? We're going to have a great attendee special discount for you today because we really want to see that you finish out the remainder of the year strong. We're going to offer you a great discount on the PET-D. That stands for the Primo Early Trend Detector, okay? We call this our roadmap for any market. Now, what I shared with you today is just one of the many few, or should say one of the few of the different ways in which you can apply the PET-D. In other words, we just touched the tip of the iceberg. There are literally dozens of ways in which to apply the PET-D to your trading. We just shared with you one of the individual techniques, okay? You can also use it as a trailing stop technique, and we show you this in the course. A lot of people said, well, Steve, I don't trade stocks. Well, guess what? It doesn't matter. This is a 4-hour chart of the Canadian dollar. Now, in hindsight, someone would say, well, yeah, sure, this has been going up, but I want to know in advance that it was going up. That way I can buy. Well, all you have to do is apply the PET-D, and guess what? The PET-D started to color this green well in advance of that nice rally, and you could have applied this 3-bar technique all the way it went up. Had you used the very first entry point, you had potentially 800 pips to the upside, or roughly $8,000 per unit, potentially you could have captured. Same thing to the downside. Here's a daily chart of the euro-yen. Once again, in hindsight, someone saying, well, sure, now I know after it's fallen tremendously that it's going down. How could we have known in advance? Well, that's where the PET-D comes in, because the PET-D told us well in advance. In fact, the first 3 bars, it told us it was going lower. Had you used the first setup that I taught you today, that's 500 pips to the downside, okay, that you potentially could have captured. Now, if you don't trade currency pairs, you trade the E-mini futures or other futures, here's an hourly chart. Once again, in hindsight, you say, well, gosh, this is going straight up. How would I have known? You apply the PET-D, and the PET-D was totally green well in advance of that rally. Had you applied the first setup here, 55 points, okay? That's almost $3,000 per contract that you could have potentially captured. Now, that's an hourly chart. Here's a 5-minute chart. If you like to really intraday trade futures or even stocks, it makes no difference. It makes no difference what this is, but for a 5-minute chart, apply the PET-D. You see how the PET-D automatically turned red, and here you can start applying the technique we shared with you. 15 points or $750 per unit if you're just taking the very first one. This is just one of the few techniques we have in our course. Now, some people said, well, what about Bitcoin? Oh, Bitcoin would have worked perfectly last year when it had that big run-up. A lot of people said, boy, I had no idea Bitcoin was going to go up, and by that time it was too late. Well, if you had applied PET-D to the Bitcoin, this is a weekly chart now, going back to January 2017, what color are the bars? They're all green. So we were already being translated to us that the PET-D wanted to go higher because the bars remained green. Now, if you wanted to use this technique, there are several others, but if you wanted to use this one, well, look at where you could have purchased on this weekly basis, okay? So this is our roadmap for any market. It's a great offer. We're going to get your trading back on track for the remainder of 2018. But guess what? We're not stopping there with this great offer we have today. We're going to throw in our new PTS Primo charting platform. I designed this with ProTrader strategies to make your trading simple. We really feel it is the trading educational portal that you've been searching for. Everything I've accumulated in my over 4 decades of trading is here on the platform, and it's virtually one click away. It's not like these other convoluted platforms you've gotten in the past, or maybe you're using right now, where it takes you a good 15, 20 minutes just to get a scan going, to figure out how you want to scan something. Everything takes a matter of moments. Now here's what you get. You get one-click PETD access. The way I showed you before, you can just click on and the PETD will automatically appear on your chart. It's that simple. You're going to get enhanced buy sell line. This is an overall trending tool that tells you what the overall trend is of the market is. So once you apply that with the short-term trend, you can have the overall and the short-term in sync with each other. Remember, the short-term is the PETD. We also give you short-term pattern recognition tools, okay? Ways to find out whatever you're looking at, what the short-term trend is by simply looking at a pattern. We also provide you with a signal scanner, so you can scan for PETD green or red setups on a nightly basis. Over 90 technical indicators are included. We're also giving you free Bloomberg TV. Remember, it's not our job to tell you how to trade. There are virtually no requirements to look at fundamental news in any of our setups. But if you do like to look at news, well, guess what? All you have to do is click on the Bloomberg icon page, and the window will automatically appear next to your chart of live economic news or fundamental news at the moment, okay? And then lastly, we have personalized tech support. Anytime you have trouble loading up a chart or accessing the PETD or any one of our different scans, don't worry, our tech support will be there to clear up any issues for you in a matter of moments. Now, this normally would cost close to, I believe, about $5,000 or $6,000, everything that's included, the PETD plus the PTS Primo charts. Well, guess what? For today only, if you sign up for this offer, you are getting 6 months of the platform free, absolutely free. So 6 months to test this out, to see what I use on a daily basis, and to use all of these things absolutely free. Remember, 6 months of a platform with the PETD would probably cost you close to $5,000 or $6,000. Here's the offer we have for you today. Remember, this is our roadmap for any market. Usually this would cost you close to $5,000 or $6,000. We're dropping down for a one-time price of $29.95. And if you'd like to, you can establish a payment plan so that you can put a small deposit on there. But for one day only, we're having a great payment plan just for $497, less than $500. You just put $500 down and $97 a month, and you'll be all set up. We're having that special one-day offer. So here's your chance to get back on board. I showed you this technique today that is just literally one of the dozens of different techniques you can use with the PETD. Remember, it applies to any market, any time frame, any direction. If you just want to have a one-time fee, then it's $29.95. If you want to have a great payment plan for less than $500, $497 one-time fee, and then it's just $97 per month after that, okay? That includes the platform, 6 months of the platform as well. So this is a great opportunity to trade actually using the same things that I use in my trading. And here's how to take advantage of this. Contact ProTrader Strategies. I developed the platform with them. They are my sister site. They handle all of the discounts and all of the pricing. You can either email them or call them directly to get this great deal, and they will set you up with this great package. Now, this link below takes you to the sign-up page, but it's not a live link. If you look on the chatting box on the far right-hand corner, a live link was just posted. All you have to do is go to the chat box, click that on, and it will automatically take you to the sign-up page, okay? I'm going to leave this information up here if you want to copy it down, or if you want to copy down the phone number. I would suggest taking advantage of that great, great offer, $497 and then $97 after that. And if you don't want to do anything online, simply call up one of the people, the trading consultants at ProTrader Strategies at 310-598-6677. They can take care of it for you over the phone, and you can be up and running with the PETD in a matter of moments, okay? So I'm going to leave this information up here if you want to copy it down. I'm going to open up the question and answer box, and I want to thank you for holding off on taking any time to ask any questions. Now feel free to ask them. One of the main questions is what if I want to use this on the platform I currently have? Sure, we can supply you with the add-on. That's something you have to upload onto your computer, and you just simply add it on to your platform. And if you want to take down this list of the available platforms that we have add-ons for, you can apply it to TradeStation, to Metastock, to NinjaTrader, MT4, Sierra Charts. You can even apply it onto Thinkorswim. But because of the way Thinkorswim is set up, they don't allow us or anyone to put their different proprietary tools on there, such as the PET-D. But they will allow anyone to use their data. So they told us, feel free to split our data and to use it on any platform. So what we do is we take the Thinkorswim data, which they allow us to do, and we give you a free NinjaTrader platform with the PET-D and all of our methods and strategies. So that way, you have another free platform right there to look at all the charts. Now, this is all, just making it easy for you if you like the platform you're currently using. But in my opinion, since we're going to be giving you automatically 6 months of the PTS Primo chart, I would just use it there on that because it's just so simple and you see how easy it is to apply. It's just one click away. You don't have to look through your indicators and scan down to see where it is and look for the name. Click it on, apply if it's okay or not. With the PET-D, it's just click and you'll see automatically, and click off and it's gone. It's up to you. So this is a great, great offer. Take advantage of this while you can. Okay, good question. Let's see. Other people are asking in the course or in the offer, will you tell us exactly where to exit and where to enter? No, those are only given within the courses, within strategies. Please remember that the PET-D is not a strategy. Remember, the PET-D is simply a high probability trend identifying tool. It's a translator. Excuse me. It simply translates what the market wants to do. It's not a strategy coming with all those complete set of rules. So with a little experience, you can decide where you want to exit. You can decide on your own where you want to enter. We give you suggestions, but remember, these are not requirements. It's up to you to define how you want to enter and how you want to exit, okay? The PET-D just tells you where to enter, or I should say where the market wants to go and where, if it wants to go up or down, then you just trade in sync with that direction, okay? It really makes it a lot simpler. Lastly, someone is saying, will I be involved in the course? Well, the course is an online course for the PET-D because we give you different videos in which to learn how to use it because there's just a ton of information. But guess what? You will get my private email address, so you can contact me anytime you like with a question on how to implement a trade, if this is okay, how do I feel about this setup you're looking at. And that way you can learn by, corresponding with me. So I will be there as your online mentor. You can ask me anytime you like, and I'll reply to you as soon as I can. Okay. So yes, that comes with it. You have direct access to me via email. All right. Great questions. In conclusion, I want to say, I know many of you may be struggling with your trading. I'm sure you're really frustrated and disillusioned and thinking, boy, I'm already halfway through the year. I'm nowhere near where I thought I wanted to be. I've lost a lot of money. It's very depressing. I know, trust me, I've been there. I know how it can be. But the PET-D is something that can really kick your trading into overdrive. That's why we titled this presentation that. So if you're having a difficult time, this is a great way to get on board. For less than $500, you can be up and running. And you can be asking me questions to help you with your trading. So take advantage of this great offer. Remember, you can contact ProTrader Strategies if you have any more questions about pricing or about the platform, and they'll be right there to answer the phone and to answer any questions you may have, okay? You can either email them. I would suggest, highly recommend calling them at 310-598-6677. Remember, if you want to sign up right away, that link on the bottom is where you'd go. You can copy and paste that onto a browser, or if you look in the chat box on the far right, just simply click that on. It's a live link, and it will take you to the sign up, okay? In conclusion, I want to say thank you so much. I hope you saw how much attention to detail we give in terms of trying to educate you. That's the philosophy behind ProTrader Strategies and Specialist Trading. Our only goal is simply to educate you as traders so that you can be in charge of your own trading destiny. And I feel that's the only way someone becomes a consistent trader. So that's our goal, to educate you so that you can make your own trading decisions. As you take one final look at our disclaimer here, remember, contact ProTrader Strategies, give them a call if you have any more questions, and I look forward to all of you becoming students of mine in the PET-D course. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.